Right Club!
Before I begin, I need to read this legal disclaimer. Chris Korbel is not a lawyer, nor can anything he says should be considered as actually legally accurate. The following should be just considered purely for entertainment purposes or proof that I went to a liberal arts college. Please applaud. Thank you. Your applause heretofore constitutes a legal acceptance of said terms. Thereby, the second party, known as the audience, consents to waive all rights to take legal action against the first party, me, Chris Korbel. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen of the Right Club jury, legal has a multiplicity of meanings and context, but I will only be covering legal as it relates to criminal, in due deference to my colleague who will be out here in a minute. I will, though, make no distinction in crime between crime, misdemeanor, interfraction. In the broader sense, it is a criminal act to remove a tag from a mattress. It is also a criminal act to remove the head of your grandmother. The concept of law dates all the way back to 1745 BC in ancient Mesopotamia, one of the earliest civilizations. The Code of Hammurabi, which is very dry except for the fact that it says an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. The word legal, on the other hand, comes from mid-15th century France, from a French word to gather as a collection of law. 100 years later, in 1640, the meaning would be related to pertaining to law. Around this time, there's an Englishman living in France named Thomas Hobbes, who states that man is guided by desire, which causes him to prey on others, making life short, brutish, and cruel. He posits the idea of a social contract, which all members of society implicitly or explicitly choose to belong to. Hobbes does not believe in the divine state, but he's a cynic enough to see the necessity of law. Now, 100 years later, we're still in France. A man named Jean-Jacques Rousseau looks at the exact same social contrast and says, man is born free and everywhere is in chains. In his opinion, desire is noble, and it is civilized society that is the one exploiting the weak for the benefit of the rich. Simply put, for Hobbes, the absence of a contract of a society would be like a purge movie. And for Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the dissolution of the social contract would be like any day at Burning Man. 1762, he writes, in 1776, a bunch of very sweaty attorneys in Philadelphia try to square the difference between what Hobbes is saying and what Rousseau is saying. And our founding fathers come up with a legal document and also a birthday card that says the following: we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And they go about making a constitution and a bill of rights, and they keep on coming up with different things to argue about, and they keep on coming up with new laws, and eventually we find ourselves here, right at the bootleg theater, because bootleg is the illegal distribution of alcohol, which once the 18th Amendment is passed is what happens. But then the 21st Amendment is passed, and now you can drink again. So you can order a beer here, any kind of alcoholic beverage, provided you are of legal age. If the bartender asks for your driver's license, you must provide it. If you drink too much and a police person pulls you over, you could lose your license, because your license is not a liberty. It is a privilege. Privilege from the French word private law, law for aristocrats and nobles. However, when the police officer pulls you over, you have to say nothing because you know your Miranda rights. How do you know your Miranda rights? Did you all go to law school? No. Did you learn it in civics class? No. You learned it from watching television. Movies. The law is in all popular culture. Podcasts, movies, TVs, comics, books, everywhere you go. And it is also in the news. And let us be as newsworthy as quickly as possible, because exactly 1 hour and 44 minutes ago, a man named Brett Kavanaugh, who just happens to be my age, was nominated as the next Supreme Court Justice. And some of you are quiet and you're happy. But the deal is, because he's a young man of 53, he could be on the bench for another 30 to 90 years. And those of you who are wondering, well, what kind of legal future we might have, I'm going to read you something from the past. We don't propose to have the Japs back in California during the war if there is lawful means of preventing it. That was said in 1943 here in California by our governor at the time. Man responsible before he was governor as the state attorney in California for one of the worst acts in our country in the 20th century, to take Japanese American citizens and deprive them of their civil rights and put them in detention centers. 11 years later, in Brown versus the Board of Education, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court reads the following decision that he wrote. Segregation of white and colored children in public schools has a detrimental effect upon the colored children. The impact is greater when it has the sanction of law. For the policy of separating races is usually as interpreted as denoting the inferiority of the Negro group. Any language contrary to this finding is rejected. We conclude that the field of public education and the doctrine of separate but equal has no place. Separate educational facilities are inherently unequal. This is the highlight of 20th century liberal law.
Yeah.
Two things within 11 years apart, but what really fascinates me the most is that Governor of California and that Chief Justice is Earl Warren.
Yep.
And believe it or not, he would later on write in his memoirs that he really did regret what he did at the beginning of his career with the Japanese internment. Laws are not made in the abstract. They are informed by principles. These ethereal things are reflections of our maturity, our wisdom, and our compassion. The legal system is not just a reflection of evolving wisdom of judicial branch, the executive branch, or the legislative branch, the federal branch. They are not a wisdom of compassion. They are a reflection of us, those who live in the social contract, all of us. And if it is imperfect, we are imperfect. And one day, can it be better? Only as much as we work to make it so. There is legitimacy in law. And to quote that great expert of bankruptcy, we are all too legit to quit. Thank